the last week and a half leading up to winter break, students in class will be doing a Monopoly game simulation, and students that are remote will be doing a Red Carpets event simulation. So in order to begin with the simulation for remote learners, you will first need to open up this PDF that is your instructions. So you'll notice that this will be the instructions, including a chart of accounts, and then transactions broken down by date. So you will need this. Then you will also need to go into the assignment, remote only simulation, and there is a Google Sheets that you will fill out, and that is what you're going to use to do all of your transactions. So I have the Google Sheets filled here. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is get your name where it has the name. And then you're going to be using journal page 1 to begin all your transactions. So you're going to be using that PDF. And the instruction says on June 1st, we received cash from the owner, Morgan Hartley, $5,000 R1. So if you need to, you might need to look at that chart of accounts to see exactly what we're going to call this, Morgan Hartley Capital. And this is June 1st. So we're typing in this journal just as we would on MindTap. The document number was R1. And we received cash, so I'm going to debit cash for $5,000, and then I'm going to credit capital. That is our first transaction. The next transaction that I would like to show everyone, I'm going to jump down to our first transaction where we received cash for a sale. Now notice Red Carpet Events, that is an event company. So we aren't selling an item, we're selling services. So you'll notice that we have sales credit here. That is anytime we provide a service, event planning. So our first time that we provide a service, on June 7th here, we provided a service and received cash. So for June 7th, I'd have the 7th. This would be our check mark entry. We don't have a way of doing a check mark, so you're just going to do an X, and this was R2. And then you will put in that value, 475. So the X's would be our check mark. We don't have a way of doing a check mark in Google Sheets, so we'll just use an X to show that we are using two special columns, sales and cash debit. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you get to the end, I have already filled in, and your instructions tell you where you should end your very last transaction. So after the 14th, you provided services to the Booster Club for a banquet and received cash. That should be on the very last line. It's a checkmark entry. And get that in there. That should be your last entry that you have on that page, because then you'll see next the instructions say use the totals from the bottom of page 1 to complete the next tab. So you can see here in purple, do not touch the cells that are in purple because it is doing the math for you. So here is a completed page 1. You can see all the transactions in there. Then down at the bottom, those are the totals for the whole page. So don't type in there, it's doing the work for you. So once you've gotten all the way to the bottom, you've completed the last transaction before the instructions tell you to move on to the next. Before you move on, you need to first go to the tab that says Prove Page 1, and you're going to use those total values from the bottom of page 1 to complete this proof. Remember that we always have zeros for sales debit. because we never debit sales. So you can fill that in there, and then all the other 5 numbers are going to come from the bottom of page 1. So after you have completed every single page, the last thing that you're going to do is you are going to prove cash, the very last thing you do. So you're going to start out with $0, and then the instructions tell you where each of the numbers is going to come from. And then finally, the instructions will tell you what this number right here should be. It's coming from the instructions. When every tab is complete, then you will go back into PowerSchool and turn your work in where it says Simulation Google Sheets, and you'll see that this is due at 11:59 p.m. on December 18th, and it's worth 40 points. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send Mrs. Carr an email, but you should have everything you need to complete all 60 transactions and every tab on the Google Sheets.